Hi, I'm Sarah Drange.
And I'm Michael Drange.
We've been attending South Hills Burbank for 7 years. When I moved to LA, I came out here to take a job as an assistant to a television producer. I took a part-time job nannying on the weekend. At the time, I was attending a church over in Wilshire, and they had talked about the importance of tithing, but I made $550 a week before taxes. I learned so much from this family about the importance of God in the home and God in the world. And one of the things that they did while I worked for them was they donated a extremely large amount of money to a church that they didn't attend in Beverly Hills to keep this church up and running. And when I talked to the mother about it, she was just talking freely about it at dinner one night. She was like, well, we're tithing. And it was like coming to me from all angles now because my church had been talking about it that I was attending at the time. There was a 90-day challenge at the church. And I thought, all right, I'll try. I'll do my best. And so $55 a week, which was before taxes, I started giving to the church. And within the 90-day challenge, my salary doubled. And then with the babysitting job on the weekend, I was able to tithe more than double what I had started. It was very clear to me at that point in time that giving God the 10% that God had given to me back showed my faith, and in turn was showing to me that I could trust that if I gave my money to God, I would be taken care of.
Before, for me, I was single, selfish, and self-centered, and just ran around with a group of friends, working on TV shows, music videos, commercials, rock shows, and we just traveled a lot, and I just did whatever I wanted. It became boring. It was all about me, and I was miserable. So it wasn't until I started to seeking God and believing in God that I really wanted to make, a change in my life. So we do also teach our kids to be generous with their time and with our home, with everything. And we do that as well. We try to be a service to others and to live that type of life. It's something that makes myself feel really good inside, is to be able to help other people that need it.
My name is Hope.
What's your name?
Mikey.
So this is the family, Mikey and Hope, and these are their jars.
Each kid has 3 jars, and they say their names on them. So Mikey Spend, Mikey Save, and this just says Give. I couldn't fit
Mikey Give.
Yeah, Mikey Give. And Hope has her own 3 as well. And so whenever they get birthday money or allowance, if they do their chores, they divide it up and they put 10% in the Give jar, and then
50% in here and 40% in the Save.
Very good, Mikey. And they take their Give jars to church and put it in the envelopes, and we keep these jars in our kitchen. It was something that we actually heard here at South Hills. We both believe you have 2 choices. You can keep the money and live in fear, or you can send it out and trust God.
And really at the end of the day, that's really what I want. I want to have peace, I want to have usefulness, and I want happiness. And I feel like I get all 3 of those things by tithing.
Alrighty. Man, it's so good to be in the house. Today it's not raining. It is sunny, right? It's a beautiful day outside. It is Super Bowl Sunday. How many Chief fans do we have here today? 2, 3, okay. Yeah. How many 49er fans do we have today? Sorry, John, you're outnumbered today. Man, but it is good. It's going to be a great day, great game. I believe it's going to be a great game. I hope that you enjoyed wherever you go with your family and friends. Enjoy it, eat well, and be safe out there. If you're visiting us for the first time or watching us online, we want to say welcome to South Hills. My name is Efrain Peña. I am the campus pastor here, and it's truly a joy to have you with us. We hope you feel welcome and feel loved. And my heart's desire, my heart's prayer is that God will take you on an incredible journey today. He would inspire you, encourage you, and embrace you with his arms, and that you just have a blast with us this morning. Alrighty? So let's jump into our series. Last week, Pastor Moses kicked off our series, Opposite of Spoiled, which is none of you are here are spoiled, right? And it was so good. It was so good to have Pastor Moses with us, our senior pastor. And so if this is the first time you're here with us or hearing this message, this series is about us having practical conversations about money. Practical conversations about money. Some people don't like talking about money, especially in church. We as a church want to help people kind of line up all their ducks in order. We want people to understand how the Bible references talks about it. We want to help you position yourself better in this journey of life with understanding how to better manage your resources, right? And so today we'll be talking about why sorting your money into 3 categories is game-changing. And let's talk about the elephant in the room right here. All right? Yeah. Some of you are like, oh my goodness. Today, one of you gets to take one of these jars home. Anyway, let's pay attention here. Ever bought something, right? Ever bought something on impulse? Right? Because you were convinced you needed it. You needed it, right? And before you knew it, you stored it in a closet. You put it in a garage, right? Or in the storage unit. We've all been there and done that before. California, I think the next thing outside of having a car dealership is storage units. Because everyone needs a storage unit. I live in an apartment condo, right? And we have a 2-car garage, and half of it is storage. My wife has to park her car out in the street somewhere because there's only room for 1 car. That's crazy, right? Storage. In other words, we saw it. We saw it. We wanted it. We needed to have it. We bought it. We barely used it. And now we're over it. And some of us are still paying for it. And it's not just the big things like that big old treadmill and that bread maker. We do it with everything, everyday small items, right? Small things like that, like the one-clicking purchasing that we do for the latest life hack that you saw on an Instagram. Anybody done that? For those of you who see those infomercials, that's what they are, they're infomercials, right? On Facebook or social media or anything, and you're like, I like that. How much is this? Where can I get this? I need to have this, right? And you bought whatever it was because you needed it, or so you thought. Friends, hasn't the word need become so skewed in our culture and our society today? We don't need this stuff. And if we're honest, we want this stuff. And maybe you're like, okay, Pastor, I hear you. Maybe I don't need it, but sometimes I feel like I deserve it. I work hard. I got to put up with a lot of people's stuff. And I'm being kind in those words. I work hard. I put a lot of effort, right? I do a lot of things. I deserve to be celebrated. I deserve to have this. I just need a little treat, a little something, right? I need a little something, a little pocket-sized party. A little pocket-sized party just for me, right? Maybe it's a scoop of ice cream. Maybe it's a Frappuccino. Maybe it's a couple of trinkets off Amazon. Maybe it's a new little pair of shoes. Maybe just a tiny new 17-piece wardrobe. Just a little teensy-weensy cute Tesla. Maybe it's not big of a deal. Just a little getaway to Hawaii. I hear there's a sale going on somewhere. Nothing crazy. I deserve it. Friends, we all do this. We all do this. And there's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with treating yourself. But the issue is insisting you deserve treats that you cannot afford. And indulging in them more often than you should. So how do we distinguish between wants and needs? How do we tell the difference between something we deserve and something we just desire? Because truth be told, when we become convinced that our wants are really needs, the word more will only ever feel like never enough. Like never enough. It won't fulfill. And that's the question. How much is enough? How much is enough? How nice of a car is enough? How many pair of shoes is enough? How many Amazon packages is enough? How much jewelry is enough? Well, our culture is constantly feeding us that a little bit more, that just a little bit more will be enough. Ever felt like that? Just a little bit more. Just this one more time. Just this one more. This last time. Just a little bit more, and I'll feel like I've had enough. Which is why, unfortunately, the line keeps moving and we keep consuming, and all of a sudden the closet in our house is not enough, and now the garage has been taken over. Just a little bit more. Listen, if we don't predetermine when to cut ourselves off, we never will. We never will. We'll just keep acquiring. We'll just keep consuming. We'll just keep getting. We'll just keep adding more and more and more. Filling our houses, filling our closets, filling our garages. Friends, this can lead to some major issues for us and our families. See, the bottom line is we need limits. We need limits. We need limits in our lives, but which ones, right? And how do we determine what they are? There's a lot of discussion about this among the New Testament authors. For instance, Paul writes in 1 Timothy 6:8, "So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content." If you have enough food and clothing, let us be content. In other words, if you're not currently naked or starving, you're doing great. You're doing great. Last week, Pastor Moses kind of broke up the brackets of what percentage are we based on what we have and don't have in this world. You see, those are your base needs: food and clothing and shelter, right? They're the need to haves. Everything else is nice to have. The need to haves and the nice to haves. And some of you won't agree with this because we don't define a necessity according to what we need, but according to what those around us have. We don't draw the line at the things that there's a limit. We have enough based on what we actually need. We draw it based upon what Julio has, or Bob has, or Mike, or Glenn, or Wanda, or Lily, or the community that we live in, or the community we do life with. If they have that, then that is what we want to attain. Friends, when we don't learn how to say no to ourselves, it leads us to some pretty dark places in life. I remember reading an article about how many, well, at the time the article was about baseball players, but I'm sure that it goes across the room at all athletes. How many professional players are absolutely broke after playing for so many years and gaining millions and millions of dollars that they are absolutely broke today. One Proverbs writer says it this way in Proverbs 25:8. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. We just finished talking in the last series about the broken down walls. In other words, a person without self-control can be overwhelmed, can be taken advantage of. When we don't have self-control, when we cannot put limits in our lives on what we buy and what we put our money in and what we acquire in life, we can be overwhelmed by it. Another ancient proverb says it this way in Proverbs 21:5. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Basically, if you make slow, deliberate, big picture decisions, you're more likely to make better decisions in life. The ones you pray about, the ones you seek wisdom or guidance or counseling for. But when we rush into things, we often end up doing the wrong thing. And that word prosperity, it's referring to a long-term stability, not just financially, but holistically, right? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and relationally, that prosperity. I don't know about you, but I want that prosperity. I want to be stable emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and relationally. You see, this is really about living with intentionality. I said that before, right? That's my goal this year, to be intentional. Be intentional with my decision making. Be intentional in my relationships, whether that is with my wife, whether that is with my girls, whether that is as the pastor, with my friendships. To be intentional, to be where my feet are. To seek guidance and counsel when I'm not sure, not to act on my impulses. Knowing who you are and what you value, what going after those values will cost you, then determining its worth, if it's worth it to you, and devoting yourself to it. Jesus said in Luke chapter 14, 28 through 29, but don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, and then everyone will laugh at you. Now, Jesus isn't talking about money in this particular part of Scripture. What he is referencing is spirituality. He's using a common sense principle about money to illustrate the importance, the high value of thinking through how much a commitment to Christ will cost you. Time, money, energy, relationships. And the reason I'm bringing it up here in this topic or this series is because his common sense illustration is no longer common sense today. It's no longer common sense. Who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there's enough money to finish it? Literally everyone today. Because I got credit. Somebody was going to front me the money. The bank is going to put it there. I got this thing called credit card. Hey, I may not have it today, but somebody else does. Right? We make these decisions in life to attain something without using our common sense. Part of the point Jesus is making here is often we feel the need to get or do or have something now. We want it now. We need to have it now. And if we don't have it now, then I don't ever want it because I need it now. And we start construing these thoughts in our heads that we need this something right now. And it doesn't matter if I don't have the money right now. I'm going to get it because I want it, because I need it, because I deserve it. And we throw common sense out the door. So basically, all the Old and New Testament writers, including Jesus himself, are telling us you need to make a plan. Make a plan for your money and then live by it. Live by it. You just can't go day to day. There has to be a plan for you so that you don't feel the weight that this world wants to put on you for your irrational decisions, right? Your quick decisions about money in life. You need to think about it. You need to process it. You need to have a plan. Making a plan for your money is how we pick priorities and practice patience in life. You just can't take your check and spend it. It doesn't work that way. And if you do that, you're going to end up you're going to be overwhelmed in life. Our culture has a word for this. It's called a budget. B-U-D, right? Budget. A budget is just an intentional, predetermined plan for your money. And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but how many of us really are living on a budget? How many of us are planning down, listing down the things that cost in life? Right? What does it mean to have this? Can I afford this? Can I really afford this? Is it really necessary? What goes first and what goes last? What is considered blow money? Right? What is considered a fund money? Who am I giving first? What am I paying first? A budget allows you to see things in front of you and allows you to kind of categorize things and predetermine ahead of time before you get your money where things are going to go. I remember as a kid, my first job, I was a young kid. My first job was $10 a week. I was taking the trash out for the building. $10 a week. I had already spent the $10 before I even got it. I already knew the candy I was gonna get. I already knew the album I was gonna buy. Like I already knew that stuff. And I was so bummed when like the owner of the building, like he didn't come that weekend. Hey, where's my money? I already spent that. I owe people money. Friends, you create a budget by deciding what your values are. Differentiating between your wants and your needs and determining what your limits are going to be in each area of a life. We all need to have limits. There has to be limits on how much we're going to eat out. There has to be limits on how much we're going to spend on clothing. There has to be limits on how much you're going to spend on entertainment. There has to be limits, right, on almost in every category in life. There are many people who do not like budgets because they don't want to be limited. They don't want to be limited. They don't want to be told, right, that you can't get that you cannot spend your money on this, that you don't have enough to buy this or that. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do with my money. It's my money. I earned it. I worked hard for the money. So hard for the money, right? I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing with it. It's my money. First of all, who's this FICA dude taking my money first, right? Because we feel like it's ours. But we need limits. We need to be faced with the reality that we don't always get the things that we want. And even if we do, we don't get them all at once. You break it down. There ought to be value-based reasons behind what you will and what you won't do. How much you will and how much you won't spend on certain things and why. So instead of saying, I can't afford that, saying, listen, I'm just choosing not to spend my money on this right now. Right? I'm choosing, right? And here's why. I prioritize this instead of that. This means more to me than that. Right? My bigger value is this at this moment. And if we don't budget, and if we don't set values, and if we don't set limits, you won't know what value, what means most to you. What has the highest value in your life? We go by the decision of, I like it. I like it. Imagine if you went around life buying everything that you liked. Because there's a lot of, I like a lot of food. I like a lot of sneakers. I like a lot of sporting events. Like, I can't afford it all. So I have to set values. I have to set limits in order to do the things that means the most to me. Friends, learning to make and manage these sorts of trade-off is the key to adulthood. The key to adulthood. And when we refuse to make them, we're left feeling like the walls of our lives are broken down. We wind up exhausted and overextended, living the opposite of our values. We begin to feel anxious and empty. And here's the thing, we pass this on to our kids. The choices that you make today as an adult will impact your kids tomorrow. It impacts our kids. We pass this on to our kids. They will experience the same anxiety that you'll experience because you mismanaged your resources. They're impacted by your work stress. They receive the runoff of your spending. They learn how to value money based on how you are using money. It's not just your fulfillment that's at stake. It's theirs as well. It's theirs as well. Fortunately, there's a simple way to think about a budget that even kids can comprehend. It's called the 3-jar system. The 3-jar system. Give, save, and spend. Give, save, and spend. Give, right? This is the reason we give first. The reason we give first is we are organizing our money according to our values. We're organizing our money according to our values. One of our top priorities is to be generous people. That is what the Word of God has called us, to be generous, right? We don't want to be self-focused. We don't want to be stingy and fearful with our finances. We want to live a life open-handed as opposed to closed-fisted. That is what God is calling us. It's how God is calling us to live our lives. Open-handed, open-hearted, right? And this is just a good thing in general. Just when you think about it, it is a good thing in general. But if you are a follower of Christ, a Jesus follower, there's more to it than that. You see, we believe that God is a good God, that God is a generous God, right? That everything good we have comes from him, that he is the supplier of all of our needs. The reason in fact, just simply thinking that the reason you woke up today was because he filled your lungs with breath. You see, sometimes we take those things for granted. The reason you have skills and ability and talents was because God gave them to you. The reason you have a job was because God opened that door. And the reason you have food on your table, clothes on your back, a roof over your head was, again, we date back because God woke you up this morning. But we skip these stages and we fail to realize that every good and perfect thing comes from his hand. And he is extraordinarily generous with us so that we can extend our generosity to others. 2 Corinthians 9:11 says, yes, you will be enriched in every way so that you can always be what? Generous. And when we take our gifts, right, to those who need them, they will thank God. You see, he gets all the glory and all the honor. You cannot be generous on every occasion if you're already spent everything that you have on yourself. You can't. You cannot live a generous life if it's always me, 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 me. You have to look for opportunities to be generous. There's also this principle in the teachings of Jesus of putting others first, which is why we give to benefit others before we do anything else. And because we're in church, you might assume when I say give, I mean pay your tithe. And while that's a wise thing to do, my friends, the generosity that Jesus is talking about is bigger and broader than that. Yes, I think that you should give a percentage, all right, and give consistently to your local spiritual community. And I think you should buy other people lunch. And I think that you should give them gifts. And I think that when you see someone in need, you should try your best to pitch in and help. That is living generously. That is giving. The next one is save. Save. Right? Which means setting money aside for the future. And there are many reasons to save and many different types of saving. Planning for retirement, setting up an emergency fund, saving for your kids' college, and even new furniture. Right? This is why we said budgeting helps us practice patience. It teaches us to have long-term goals and slowly chip away at them. It's the opposite of being impulsive. It requires us to wait and to learn how to delay gratification, all essential to adulting. One of my daughters said, hey, Dad, I want to get this. I was like, oh, you got money for that? No. How are you going to get it? Hey, save up some money for it. But I want it now. You can't. You don't have enough money. Oh, so you save up. And when you have enough money, then you can get it. Because that's something that you want. I don't want that. It won't fit me. Right? And lastly, spend. This is the category that you can use as soon as you get it. It's what you leverage to meet your immediate wants and needs, but in reverse order. This is where it's helpful to map out everything that you need to do and everything that you want to do in the same course of a month. And then rank those things in order of importance according to your values to determine what limits to put on which items. Start with pay your bills, right? Rent, phone, debt, power. Then move on to the things that you want but don't technically need. But they're helpful. Gym membership, the second car, the lawn guy, premium pet food. Lastly, there's still room for the stuff that you like. Because if you put in a budget, there's still room for the things that you like. The discipline that you do at the beginning will pay dividends in the end. Streaming subscriptions, we all love those. Designer clothes, going out to eat, coffee runs, getaways, upgrades, bunnies. Right, When did you have a bunny? This is where knowing not just your big picture values as a Jesus follower, but your specific values as an individual and how they come in handy. You see, we're all called to be generous and wise, but the way we live that out is going to look different from person to person. I get it. Pastor E, you got a lot of sneakers. I don't buy anything else. I don't have an addiction to anything else. Nothing else. You can ask any of my family. I just like sneakers. And when I have enough in my budget, I will go get some. If it's not there, I don't get it. I don't buy sports cars. I don't have anything else. There's nothing else I spend. So the money that I budgeted for my fun money, I go get sneakers. I know there's many of you wondering why. How did I get my sneakers? That's just the way it works in my family. We live on a budget. And there's things that are up here and there's things that are out there. And if I want something, I save for it. If I don't have it, I don't get it. Friends, it's also okay for us to spend different amounts of money on clothes or food. For some of us to value travel and others to prefer to spend that money on a nicer home. That's all good. I'm not here to condemn you for any of it. I'm just helping you see and position yourself to think about how you use your resources. The important thing here is having a plan that you write according to what you value and sticking with it. Trying it out. I'm going to close this up. Maybe you're wondering, how much am I supposed to put in each of these jars? Right? How much am I? 3 jars? How much am I supposed to put? Well, that's up to you. Every family, every person here is different. Right? Your values are different than my values, and my values are different than their values. So you got to figure that out for yourself, with your family. The Old Testament suggests that we give 10% of our income back to God through our local church. And the New Testament challenges, right, the first Jesus followers to aim to be as generous as they possibly can to everyone, especially to those who share their faith. Often when we give, we're asking the wrong question. What's the minimum I have to give, Pastor? When we should be asking, man, how much am I able to give? How much am I able to give? When you live with a budget, you'll have answers to these questions. A lot of financial experts would tell you to save 10% of your income for retirement. But there are probably several other things that you want to save for. So you may have to increase that percentage a little bit more. So my challenge for you this week is this. Commit to a 3-jar budget for the next 3 months. 90 days. And involve your kids on this journey. Some of you have kids and you're not asking or teaching them how to budget. Just say, here's your money and go. Have you talked to your kids about tithing? Have you talked to your kids about saving? Have you put your kids on a budget? Those are important questions. I don't know. I'm not saying you don't do this. I'm just saying, have you? I'm suggesting you should. In fact, try this with them. The beauty of the 3-jar budget is that little kids can do this as well. For every $5 you give them, they can begin to divide this and learn from an early stage of how to budget, how to give, how to save, and how to spend. You can give them a set amount of money per paycheck or month and have them divided into the jars. You see, having to give teaches them to be generous and open-handed. I remember as a little kid, I was the only kid, and I went to a Catholic school, and my mom would give me a quarter. She would give me a quarter. I was a growing kid, so I was hungry. I wore Huskies, just the size, for you guys to understand me. And there was a moment in the day where they would say, okay, who wants pretzels and cookies? I knew exactly how many pretzels I can get and how many cookies I can get with that quarter. And I'd be like, and I would sit on my desk and I would line up the pretzels. 2, 3, 4, 6 pretzel sticks I would get. And I was able to get cookies, 6 cookies, because they were 2 cents. Some of them were lemon, sometimes they were chocolate chip. And I would stack them up. I stacked those up and line them up. And there was times where I felt like all eyes were on me. I didn't want nobody looking at my cookies or my pretzels. You see, my mom never taught me to be a giver. All she said was, don't lose it and don't spend it all in one place. Well, that's already I spent it all in one place. It wasn't until later in life where I began to have a heart of generosity. And I realized that my love language is giving gifts. And so I love giving gifts. And I learned in life to be generous because I've been given much. I've been blessed. And I've raised my kids to do the same. So from early on, as soon as we started giving them money, they started to learn what to do with their money, to break it up into categories, to be a tither. Doesn't matter whether it was birthday money. It doesn't matter if you found it on the street. You're going to give God what is rightfully His. I got more stories to share, but I got a message to wrap up here. Friends, you may not always make the right decision if you don't have a budget. You may not always put your values at the forefront if you don't constantly work at it. And thus, when it comes to your finances, you will spend it when it doesn't need to get spent. Learning how to do something isn't just a matter of knowing, but doing. If kids never get an opportunity to practice handling money, they won't grow into adults adults who are competent at handling money. Can you imagine what your life could look like 3 months from now if you just began this 3-jar budget? This is in its simplest form. But imagine the life of generosity that you would live by giving what you can save and eventually purchase, what you can spend on by just putting things and knowing where to put things. Amen? I hope that you leave here knowing that I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just helping you understand what God has instructed us to do with our resources that He has blessed us with.
South Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says, every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321. And the 3rd way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the 4th way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, or whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances, and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you, and thank you for watching our online service today.